Here's my review of Daredevil Born Again, Episode 8. I thought that this was a great episode. I think there was just so much to like here, and especially just finally seeing Bullseye again was just awesome. The episode starts off with Poindexter in prison, like requesting to meet with Matt Murdock, and it's so interesting because, man, but we know that Poindexter, that Benjamin is just such a menace, and he does this basically it's all part of his grand scheme, essentially. But like I said, just seeing him again, and I love the way on how he's introduced, that he literally have to wrap his hands just because almost everything he gets his hands onto could be a weapon because he's just that skilled. Just that level of detail, I loved it. I thought it was great. Also, I loved how Matt gets like really mad and just starts bashing in Poindexter's face, and how he basically just tells the guards he started bashing his face in, and of course they're gonna believe Matt because I mean he is this psychopath, and it would be something Dex would do. And we do find out that it was part of Dex's plan. As he escapes, he uses it just so he can knock out his tooth so he can spit it at the guard, and he is just a menace. I thought that his whole escape, no complaints. I just loved it. It was awesome. Also, I really dug the visuals here. Like, the blue, it adds such a contrast to, like, blue is often associated with cold. Like, because we know this character of Ben, he's such a cold, heartless person. Because he is just a full-blown psychopath. Many people say that he's basically Daredevil's Joker. And I mean, yeah, he kind of is. I mean, he's just insane. Like I said, the whole episode is just very well shot, at least in my opinion, with this whole aura of blue, at least at the beginning, like when we start off with Ben in jail. I thought that whole part was just great. And we see how after basically he bashed his face in, how he's getting checked up by the doctors, and yeah, he uses that tooth to spit and then kill one of the doctors with just his tooth, and then just grabs everything in the doctor's office to just kill all the guards and the doctors, and it was just bloody, and it was great. It was awesome. Like I said, this scene is my favorite scene. I think this is probably my favorite shot in the whole episode. I thought it was just awesome. And another really good part of this episode is we're basically kind of uncovering more about what happened with Foggy's death, where we come to this realization, or like Matt does, and us, the audience as well, that it wasn't necessarily Kingpin who killed Foggy. Well, of course, Bullseye killed him, but like it wasn't Kingpin who hired Bullseye, but it was actually Vanessa. And Vanessa, in this episode, she is just ruthless. And I thought that she was great. And it's just so cool basically seeing how she's in many ways just as ruthless as Kingpin. Obviously, she doesn't have the physical strength of Kingpin. But in terms of that cold and calculating, just evil, she's just so compelling. I thought that she was just great. Kind of reminded me of Sophia Falcone from The Penguin, although not as strong. And this whole episode, this big part of this episode also just takes place at this benefit, this gala, which leads into just this whole really cool sequence of this dance sequence where Matt is trying to get information. Of course, he's there with his girlfriend, but then they occasionally switch off, and then he starts talking to Vanessa, and basically is talking to Vanessa saying, "I know what you did. I knew it was you behind the death of Foggy." And I just really dug it. I thought it was all great. All the dialogue was just fantastic, in my opinion. And it may be a little thing, and it is something that you notice, as the original Netflix show had such great cinematography. It was so gorgeous. And I will say, I think that this episode probably has the best cinematography of the whole show so far. Not like the entire show, like including the original show, season 1 through 3, but just of Daredevil Born Again. I think that visually it's great, and we get more of Bullseye at the gala, just being a psychopath, and he's great. He's great here. And, of course, what Bullseye's plan is to kill Fisk. And he's about to when Matt actually jumps in front of Fisk and saves him. And I think that is just such a powerful moment to show that they are such brutal enemies, but Matt is so loyal to his own personal beliefs against killing. He would jump in front of a bullet for his own arch enemy, which it's just so poetic in many ways. Like, it just shows how complex of a character Matt really is. And I just thought was just great. I thought it was a really impactful moment, and it is like one of those things where obviously he's not gonna die. Like, he's the main character. Like, no, he does not die, and nor should he. And even though we obviously know from an outside perspective that there's not really much stakes here, because, like, of course he's gonna live. He's the main character, and of course I'm not gonna kill Kingpin. But within the context of the show, I thought it was really well done. It was great. I will say, when we're seeing more of Vanessa just being ruthless, which was great, I do kind of like how they wrapped up this whole storyline. Like, at the beginning, they wrapped up the whole Luca storyline where Vanessa just, like, kills Luca, basically. So that storyline's kind of over. I thought that was pretty satisfying. Not satisfying, but more like, it was nice to have that storyline over with, because it didn't really feel like it was super necessary. Like, and he as a character, like, we knew Luca, like, yeah, he was gonna die eventually. He doesn't really serve that big of a plot other than to kind of have this tension between Wilson and Vanessa. But I like this scene with Vanessa. And one thing I think this episode just does such a good job. Like, I'm even more excited for the next episode. I'm very excited for it. I'm upset that this show is almost over, and I do hope that rather than everything being rushed in this next episode, I really hope that it just feels like more of a cliffhanger, because I have been really enjoying this show for the most part. I have some problems with it, but for the most part, I'm definitely leaning positive towards the show, and I think that this was probably the best episode so far. But I'm just kind of worried about the next episode. But if we're judging, but of course, this is just a review of this episode. This episode I found to be great. So from the action to the acting, especially on Wilson Bethal's part as Bullseye, as Benjamin, from the acting to the action to the gorgeous cinematography, probably the best in the show so far, and just through the emotion, I found this to be a very, very solid episode. I really liked it. I think that it's got the best action so far. I think that it's got, like, the most intensity and emotion. And it's got that intrigue, especially with that behind the scenes of how we found out what really happened with Foggy. And then some people are speculating he's not really dead. And it's just so interesting to... I just thought this was just a really great episode. I really enjoyed it.